music festival, yeah!
All of the best free curated playlists.
The best bands.
All of the great podcasts for every interest.
The stuff they don't want you to know.
All of the mind-blowing contests.
$20,000.
Awesome.
All of your favorite superstars.
This is Dave Grohl from the Foo Fighters.
Best of all, it doesn't cost a thing. Download the absolutely free iHeartRadio app now.
Stay tuned and stay informed with News Radio 690, KTSM, an iHeart radio station.
3, 2, 1. Oh no. Which button am I?
When every second counts, you can't wing it.
Guys, a little help up here?
In a home fire, you may have less than 2 minutes to get out. So make a family home fire escape plan. Then practice home fire drills at least twice a year so everyone knows what to do when they hear. Prepare your family at ready.gov/fire drill. Brought to you by FEMA, the Ad Council, and Make Safe Happen.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. Be a part of the show by calling 915-544-KTSM. 915-544-5876. Or comment online on our stream at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. It's 4 p.m. Mountain Time, and that means it's time to talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. Whole lot of things going on, whole lot of conversations already beginning over there as we have some people, of course, chiming in on the various socials, including on Rueda with the wave, and of Mondo Moncada with the howdy to you as well. Thank you all for tuning in. Again, that's one of the better ways you can do so throughout the program, but certainly not the only ways you can get at us. Well, those phone lines open a little bit later, and a very important way we're going to have them open this time around, because we do actually have a giveaway we're going to be doing towards the end of this first hour. We got some tickets for y'all for an event coming up at the Plaza Theater. I'll just mention that one right now. We're going to give away a few pairs of tickets for the Zapateados Dance Spectacular, being put on in honor and in celebration of both the culture, heritage, and specifically the creator of Viva El Paso. So featuring many of those specific types of performances in the dance sense. So we'll be giving some tickets away for that, for the performance that is coming up a little bit later this weekend, actually Saturday the 12th at 8 p.m. But we got a lot of stuff to talk about in the meantime, of course, here, including, big winner in the Borderland. No, not the biggest winner. So we don't see anyone with a gold-plated sports car around town. Well, at least not immediately. Could you get one for $1 million minus taxes? Maybe. I'd be willing to investigate. I would be willing to have someone pay me to investigate what it would take to do that. But in any case, that note there is also on the statewide level. There is the ceremonial signing, even if the actual coming into effect will be contingent on some other votes coming up in November for that large package of property tax breaks that the state is working on, and Governor Greg Abbott again signing. Also, of course, continuing some of the coverage in the community when it comes to youth vaping, and particularly THC, still a big issue. And as almost to answer the question I brought up yesterday about, are there challenges? There definitely are challenges for Texas Senator Ted Cruz, and some interesting positions, including technically agreement between the potential opponents, I guess, at this point, with a primary in the way to go, at the very least when it comes to getting at the incumbent Cruz from some of the Democrats here in Texas. So we'll talk a little bit about that as we have, along with the many other things going on and certainly affecting us here in the Borderland. Also, interview today, as I mentioned, talking about business at least a bit, and some of the major things going on with those developments on the occasion of the first anniversary of the new, I guess-ish, CEO for the El Paso president and CEO, I should say, El Paso Chamber, Andrea Hutchins. Interview with her today on those thoughts and the continuing efforts and on the development here in the Borderland, particularly of businesses. We also have Ed Clore and Abrabanda joining us here. Abrabanda with the rock on, and Ed Clore, definitely a pulse on the news there. Neptune Beach, Florida got the $1.5 billion. Now, I got to say, okay, it's been a minute since I don't know if I've actually visited that particular area, but in Florida, it kind of makes you wonder, how far is that $1.5 billion actually going to go? Because even if you could get decent, I'm sure you can get a decent sized property for it, but then the insurance on it and the fact that it's a lot of inflated prices. I want to say I've seen that Florida has been on some of the top of the list of the inflated prices, because if you're going to move the heck out of Dodge, why not go to Florida? Like, don't get me wrong. When it's nice, the weather's beautiful over there, but when it's not, it is nasty. And so we'll see what ends up coming out of that. But in our local area, as reported on by many outlets, of course, but certainly our news partners over at KFOX 14, noting that, yeah, someone didn't get all the numbers, which I almost don't know how I feel about it. Like, sure, $1 million. Yes, I will take it. You're going to hand me $1 million for doing that. Sure, absolutely. I'm not going to argue with you, but something about knowing that you were one number off of splitting the jackpot, I just kind of feel like would gnaw at me. But there's one person in the Borderland that can confirm or deny that. And if they are smart, they will never tell anyone about it, or at the very least, not until they're well, damn, and ready. But article title from our news partners at KFOX 14, winning $1 million Mega Millions ticket sold at gas station in Socorro. So right here in this area. And I will have to say I was nearby-ish the area, at least closer than I usually am. But the actual gas station I stopped at, they weren't able to print out tickets anymore. So I wasn't able to buy one. So as much as it is I had as much of a chance as anyone else having not bought a ticket, or statistically similar anyway. It still is kind of like could I have? Again, location has nothing to do with it, but still congrats to them. And if you want to make an investment in your local radio stations, our mailing address is 4045 North Mesa. That's only mostly a joke. In any case, congratulations to them. And they do have, I believe it's 6 months in Texas, and Texas does now have the anonymous claiming rules, but we'll see how it works. Just don't let anyone out there who's part of or the winner of this, just don't let yourself join the ranks of the people who have had their lives ruined by the lottery. Remember, you control the money doesn't control you. But just not getting that the jackpot ball matched along with it, I just got to say, that's probably going to eat at me. If it was me, that is. It's not. I'm still here. There was not any very interesting letters or notes left for any current or former supervisors in any way, shape, or form in my particular case. Let's just put it that way. But the fact that this was a 4 month of no winning spree certainly got a lot of interest, even if I didn't really follow through it on myself. And speaking about, of course, the money, or at the very least, billions of dollars in its own right, overall, the state of Texas, Governor Greg Abbott signing that property tax package. I know there had been questions about it, and this was noted as a ceremonial, as I do believe it had technically been signed some weeks ago, or at the very least effectuated. We do have some of the things going on, including the planning for that November election that is going to have the voter approval for some of those key components of the property tax package. Put it at about $18 billion in total, but the effectuated part and the parts that have been put into place by these most recent actions, note about that $12.6 billion from the state surplus, and particularly effectively a swap is the way I'm thinking about it and describing it when it comes to changing what had been coming from property taxes towards local school district budgets versus what'll now be then, if this goes through. The signed parts, yes, that has gone through, but the part that'll be going before the voters to do the changes required to the Texas Constitution to allow effectively for this. Because, you get into some of these things, and the Texas state constitution, a little bit different than, the capital C national constitution, in that the national constitution doesn't really lay out what tax policies are, just basically the powers and the enumeration between them and the checks and balances, all of that. Whereas the Texas Constitution, some may remember from some years ago that there was, and this feels a little silly in retrospect, I want to say it was like $7 billion had been building up in the Texas Rainy Day Fund, or one of the things that would fall into that category. And the ask at that point was like, okay, constitutionally, we can't touch that except for very specific circumstances. But Texas got a lot of roads, and we could use some of that to make them not stink as much statewide. Like, I know some people out there have been talking about our local ones, and that's its own situation. And so the decision was, back at that point in time, I want to say it's when Joe Pickett was in office as one of our state representatives. Someone correct me if I'm wrong on that one. But in any case, that was decided there. So that's the kind of scope of stuff that is involved in the Texas state constitution. So that's a part of it. And so seeing that and the changes, including the increasing of the homestead exemption and tax savings for smaller businesses and other commercial and non-homestead properties. Governor Abbott, among other things, tweeting out saying Texans will see an average of $1,200 or more on their property tax bills. Average savings, $1,200 or more. Let me say, sure I said that one right. Calling it the largest property tax cut in Texas history. Noting that it would be about $1,400 for Texas homeowners age 65 plus or with a disability in their savings. The full ceremony and more of the details over with our news partners at KFOX 14. So we'll see how that affects Texas, because, I mean, some of the conversations we've just had, even on this station, has been about in businesses and relocating. Does it make sense to? Like, if you're going to operate virtually in a state and not actually have like a footprint, like, sure, there's good reasons to come to Texas. But if you have to build up stuff, facilities, infrastructure, etc., those property taxes, well, I think the most recent time we talked about it was the downtown versus the potential one, as far as I'm aware, still a percolating project, the arena amphitheater, whatever you're going to end up calling it, entertainment area, I think was at least part of the idea. That was going to be across from the Sunland Park Racetrack and Casino. Still kind of percolating the last time I heard anything and any updates about that particular project. But the idea of it being, well, why New Mexico, not in Texas? Well, property taxes was a part of that conversation. Now, if you structure it wrong, like I know I have people out there, I've talked with some of them that do it the right versus the wrong way, because conceptually the right way would be to live in New Mexico, work in Texas. But I do know people who live in Texas and work in New Mexico, so they get both the higher property taxes proportionally and the income taxes along with it. So I'm not saying there's a right or wrong way to live your life. I'm just saying when it comes to your bottom line and your budget, there are maybe better ways to do it. I mean, do you, but this change to the Texas laws could have some impacts both personally, but also particularly on those business aspects. Very interesting, I do have to say. And so, speaking of business, we're going to take that first break right now. Be coming out of this, talking with interview we were able to record earlier with Andrea Hutchins, the president and CEO of the El Paso Chamber, on both business movements, dealings, efforts underway in El Paso, and particularly getting the hold of the reins on it as is on the occasion of the first anniversary, first full year in that position after coming to El Paso to do that kind of work. So we'll talk about that, or sit down, well, by phone anyway, with her. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. And don't forget about that giveaway we're going to be doing for the, again, upcoming performance of Zapateados. But taking that break right now. Stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Lots of freeway crashes to be aware of right now. I-10 westbound at Red, the latest accident blocking the right lane. A crash is blocking two left lanes on I-10 eastbound at Trowbridge. Expect delays. Another accident I-10 eastbound at the Patriots got the right ramp lane blocked. Traffic stop and go going back to Dallas with a 15-minute delay. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Wendy's Late Night, open until midnight or later. Wendy's is open until midnight or later, which means all your favorite menu items are up later too. The Baconator still tastes just as juicy and bacony at night. So listen to that craving and turn in for the night at a Wendy's drive-thru. Hours may vary at participating U.S. Wendy's.
Attention, your money is now controlled by the U.S. government.
Picture a world where your every purchase is monitored, tracked, and controlled by those in power to suppress the freedoms of those they see fit. Hi, my name is Jason Hansen. I'm a former CIA officer and New York Times bestselling author. And right now, I've become very focused on the impending rollout of the central bank digital currency. This is not a work of fiction. It's a terrifying reality looming on the horizon. But there is a bit of good news. I've partnered with Advantage Gold to offer you a solution. They are specialists in converting your traditional assets, like those inside an IRA or 401k, into tangible assets such as physical gold and silver. Don't allow your money to be controlled. Claim your free gold protection kit from Advantage Gold. Call 800-900-8000, 800-900-8000. That's 800-900-8000.
Advantage Gold is not an investment advisor or a tax advisor.
Call 800-900-8000.
Are you a business owner, CEO, or responsible for marketing? If you are, iHeartMedia can help you reach your goals and find new customers. We reach more consumers in your target area than anyone else. and we can give you access to those potential customers more cost effectively across radio, digital, podcasting, and social. We'd love to show you how iHeartMedia can work for you. Get started today at iHeartAdvertising.com. That's iHeartAdvertising.com.
At Consumer Cellular, you get the same exact coverage as the largest carriers for up to half the cost. Same thing, up to half the cost. Less money for the exact same thing. Hope this is clear enough. Consumer Cellular, when freedom calls, they're here to answer. Switch today and get a second month of service for free. Go to consumercellular.com/free month and enter promo code free month. Half the cost savings based on cost of Consumer Cellular single line 5 gigabyte data plan and unlimited talk and text compared to lowest cost single line postpaid unlimited talk, text, and data plans offered by T-Mobile and Verizon May 2023. Promotion subject to terms and conditions.
180 over 111, and I had a stroke. I couldn't speak or walk.
This is high blood pressure. Get back on your plan. Go to loweryourhbp.org. Brought to you by the American Stroke Association, American Medical Association, and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of people tuning in, chiming in over there, including Durley Store, saying, pay a lot of taxes living in New Mexico and working in El Paso. Like, don't get me wrong, there's going to be taxes either way. If you figure out a way out of that without ending up in any level of incarceration, you can probably make a lot off of that. But I'm just saying there's better ways, arguably, bottom line, budget-wise, to maybe do it, and worse ways. Like, I mean, sure, if you just want to set your money on fire, yeah, you could definitely do that. Is that going to be a good idea for you? Well, what's right for you? I wouldn't. But speaking of burning money, John Browston is saying, great, now I can buy more lottery tickets. Sure. I mean, yes, they have functionally infinite amount of them. I mean, like, technically, yes, there is a limit, but isn't it? It's above what the prize would be. Like, if you got the prize, you could not buy enough tickets to guarantee you would get the prize again. Stats and numbers bear this kind of stuff. I know there's that, what is that new Bryan Cranston series that's out there about, it's a semi-fictionalized, I think it's based on a true story, one of those kind of things about figuring out how to get enough money out of a lottery. This is not one of those. Let's put it that way. In any case, other people chiming in and adding their 2 cents on that, including ideas about some of the elections coming up and primaries particularly. We'll talk a little bit more about that. But speaking about business, money, and development, particularly in our region, was able to, again, have a conversation, technically a sit-down, but via phone, with Andrea Hutchins, the president and CEO of the El Paso Chamber. Has been in place for, as of the start of this month anyway, 1 year, representing, well, the business community and the organizations around it here in El Paso. So the El Paso Chamber, maybe more broadly known as the El Paso Chamber of Commerce, but no, it's El Paso Chamber. Don't get it messed up here on it. But talking about some of those efforts, some of the major things that have gone on, including kind of a, let's call it a hitting the ground running kind of thing with some of those, well, other major things that were going on in and around the community, but also, of course, the continued development. So wanted to get the perspective on that, having some big names and getting their ideas on how they think or are wanting things to move forward and run here in the region, I find very interesting, and hopefully you all do too. So here is that interview. Enjoy. Joining me now, we have Andrea Hutchins, President and CEO with the El Paso Chamber. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's good to be back.
Absolutely happy to have you on to talk about some wider things. We've had some very specific discussions with you or other staff at the Chamber in recent days. But of course, what we're talking about specifically here is the occasion of your first complete year as the president and CEO for the El Paso Chamber, and dealing with that and the business community here in El Paso. So a lot has happened, as I mean, every year has its own major events, but particularly this year has been an interesting one. I mean, just a couple of the things that come to mind for me, larger and across the entire community, is the I would say, opening up of more businesses, or at least the more availability of being able to go out and do it. The almost ravenous nature is the way I've described it, of people wanting to go out, do things, and just experience stuff out in the world. And of course, I'm sure the business community has seen a lot of other changes and impacts. I mean, the regulatory environment is always having different things going on. So how would you characterize your first complete year, that is, with the El Paso Chamber, and some of the major things that have gone on from your perspective?
Well, if I summed it up in a word, I would say fast. Things have certainly gone by quickly. And, even when you're going through all of these things that have happened in the past years, sometimes you forget about things. If they've been a few months behind and that pain is already over, you sometimes forget about those things. But I can say, when I first took over, you're right, there was a kind of a hunger, if you will, for people getting back to normal, for people getting back to work, getting back to business. And truly, I think getting back to volunteering and being active in the community. And so we've had an outpouring of support from individuals across the business community, from across the region, frankly, who have been really encouraging of the chamber and some of the older programs that we brought back, as well as some of the newer programs that we're bringing to light. And so it's been a great time to be a part of the chamber. I can tell you there's some great statistics that have been coming out at a national level about the growth in El Paso. One in particular that sticks out: our downtown is among the top 5 in the country for the fastest regeneration, if you will, post-pandemic. And so it's really encouraging. Sometimes I know that we live our day-to-day lives in El Paso and we don't necessarily see things from, the bigger national picture, but folks, I think, are starting to look at El Paso and rethink, kind of the uniqueness of the region and whether they might invest here.
So particularly when you're thinking at like the programs you're mentioning or other accomplishments or efforts that you all have had in place, particularly again over this first year, I mean, yeah, it definitely seems like a hit the ground running kind of moment. What are some of the highlights that, or at least the major things that you want people to know about what you all have done or at least worked on in this past year?
Sure. Well, for a few months, we were focused on a little thing you might remember called Prop K, which at the time, it took up a lot of time and a lot of energy. But I think it did remind people of the power of the business community when we collectively come together, what we can do in the industry, in the region, and for our businesses who are members, and just the greater business community as a whole. And so I think when you look at a Chamber of Commerce, next year is going to be our 125th anniversary. We have a lot of things that we have planned to celebrate throughout the year, and we can certainly talk about those if you're interested in it. But, I think Chambers of Commerce have been around for a very long time because there has always kind of been this push-pull between government and the business community. And I think just reminding the businesses why a chamber is so important to have their collective voice. They're busy running their businesses on a day-to-day basis, and so they can't always get out and talk to, their local city council representative or their county commissioner or their, state rep, and so on and so forth. And so as a chamber, we take on that role for them. And I think through the efforts at, El Paso Days that we went to in February, where we took over 80 people to the state and had some real wins from that as well, I think it's really collectively showing people that advocacy is important to the business community. I think there's always been kind of a misnomer that if you, maybe run a restaurant or you have a small business where even you work out of your house, you don't necessarily need a chamber. And I kind of liken it to having an insurance policy, right? Like you don't necessarily want to pay your insurance policy until something happens. And so I feel like that's kind of similar as far as paying and then being part of a membership-based organization. You don't always want to pay it, but certainly, when the time comes and you need it, it's good to know that it's there.
So a lot of efforts you mentioned there, but particularly about some of those like upcoming programs that you mentioned or things that you all are bringing back, trying to re-implement or moving forward there. What are some of those specific aspects that for people, concerned about business community or things like that in our region, you would want them to know about?
Sure. So one in particular that we have been doing, and so hopefully people are going to be hearing from us relatively soon, but we've started a business retention and expansion alliance. This is really an alliance between ourselves and several nonprofits in the region who are also dedicated and interested in economic development, where those individuals who are part of that program are going to be going out to businesses to really find out where their pain points are, where they, might have issues with hiring or, with admin or just whatever issues that they're having. We're going to take kind of the team to them, if you will, and really look and see how we can help the city and the county and workforce and so many of the other partners that we have in the community to create better policies to be able to address those issues that those businesses bring up. Additionally, we are going to be creating a program, and this is the first time that I've talked about this publicly, so breaking news. But we are going to be creating a civic action lab. And as a part of that initiative, we're planning on really kind of formally launching things in January. But as a part of that initiative, we are looking to kind of re-energize and re-engage, especially the younger people in the El Paso community. I can't tell you how often I go to council meetings or county commissioner's court, and most of the people that are there are pretty seasoned professionals, you know. We're certainly not bringing in the under 30 crowd to go and you know, speak on behalf of their business or the business community. Additionally, I think that there has been a real need across the community, not just the business community, but across the community, for people to have a voice about what the future of El Paso is going to look like. And we're hoping to use this action lab as a way to do just that. Help people take action. One of the things that I've consistently heard is that sometimes people don't feel like that they are part of the decision-making process. And I know that a lot of our, you know, electeds in particular, that they do try and get out and get in the community and get kind of the, you know, the overall voice, if you will, of their constituents. But frankly, it's just hard to reach everyone. So the more efforts that we can have where we're empowering people and showing them what's possible and then helping them move an initiative forward, I think it will cut down on some of those feelings of, you know, these things are done in closed rooms without me.
Interesting. And again, if you're just joining us, guest right now is Andrea Hutchins, President and CEO of the El Paso Chamber. You want to find out anything about all the subjects we're discussing here, what's going on, and those efforts, among other things, elpaso.org for, again, the El Paso Chamber. So elpaso.org. And they've got all of the links, including to some of the upcoming events and things like that, up available over there. So particularly when it comes to the way things have continued to move here, I mean, you mentioned a lot of like efforts that are happening going forward, including talking about reinvigoration. Sounds like at least a little bit of one of those programs that are going towards maybe the idea of the brain drain that we experience in the region. So some larger and longitudinal efforts, certainly. But what are some of the things that y'all see as coming up, even besides y'all's specific efforts of, you know, issues of importance or things that needing to be addressed, particularly for the business community and for the community as a whole, for our whole borderland region in the next, well, however many years?
Sure. So, you know, actually, I'm taking this call at the Association of Chamber of Commerce Executives Conference. So I'm out of town, and I'm meeting with other Chamber of Commerce executives and really kind of comparing notes with them. So the biggest issues I think that are, you know, facing everyone across the country, this is certainly not an El Paso only issue, would obviously be the continued issue with workforce and talent. So workforce and talent is obviously on the forefront of everyone's mind. But there is a little bit of an interesting shift right now that's occurring, I think, across workforce in general, where, you know, we're in this cusp where there's people who have jobs where they demand to work from home. There's companies who are saying no more working from home. And I think everyone's still kind of in this area where they're trying to figure it out. And they're looking for leadership from chambers and from, you know, kind of organizations that are like chambers. I do think, though, when you talk about the future of El Paso, and this does kind of go toward the workforce and talent issue, when I tell people about what's happening in El Paso and about the El Paso community, about the El Paso culture, when I have the opportunity to sit down with somebody and tell them what makes us unique and different, they're bought in. You know, I can see the wheels turning and the oh, I didn't know that, you know. But if we leave it up to the national news media to paint the picture about who El Paso is, we are not going to win. And when I say win, there's kind of a unspoken war for talent going on amongst communities across the country.
Okay.
We've got a lot of the Midwestern and Northern communities who are, you know, quite frankly, shrinking as people continue to move south to places like Texas, but often not El Paso. And so I think we as a community need to start as much as often and as collectively as often trying to get the word out about who and what El Paso is.
I mean, honestly, some of the implications for why our show was begun in the first place is to talk about the things going on here, because the way we put it is that no one else is going to talk about El Paso like the people who are from, live here, work, spend their lives, raise their families, etc. do. A lot of people want to tell us how we think and how we feel or the issues going on here, but if we're not talking about it ourselves, well, then those will be the ones that dominate, is the way we put it on this program anyway.
I couldn't agree more. 100%.
So, and again, if you're just joining us, guest right now, again, Andrea Hutchins, President and CEO for the El Paso Chamber. Again, their website, elpaso.org, simply enough, elpaso.org. So I have in the past also on this program, on that leadership aspect that you mentioned there, particularly in the midst of the business shutdowns, the restrictions that happen, leadership did feel lacking on a lot of levels. At the very least, in the apparent, I am sure there were efforts going on, but when it comes to kind of addressing that, or like you said, trying to bring that leadership forward, particularly under your leadership of the El Paso Chamber, again, as we're doing this interview on the occasion of the first anniversary of the same, what do you feel are some of the things about addressing that? Because sure, we are past certain things, and while, yeah, COVID may not ever be done, is what we're saying nowadays, but there are still questions about, okay, what about future disruption, either on a pandemic scale or on a continual disruption that we're seeing? I mean, there's a lot of things on the horizon, right? When it comes to developing technology with some of those social things and aspects, and the work from home, and therefore remote work, and therefore not having to be in major areas and offshoots or tertiary areas, often being focused of. All of these things have strong potentials for disruption, or at the very least, again, major changes to the way even local and small mom and pop businesses operate. So when it comes to just the aspect of outside of any particular issue, the leadership part of it, trying to give some guidance for people who are individually, kind of like you were saying, trying to figure things out, but may not be able to get their arms around such a huge situation or all of these situations at once. What is, at the very least, the way that you're hoping to be able to tackle these kind of things and offer that leadership for the future?
Sure. So, unfortunately, you're 100% correct. I can guarantee that there will be future, issues where leadership is needed. The one thing that I would say would make things easier in future, crisis situations, or just even, eras where there's a little bit more of a struggle. I think having appropriate systems and processes in place as an organization, number one, is extremely important so that we can pivot easily. And so I also think having effective communication processes in place, not only with the chamber and with our chamber members, but also with our partner organizations. I've often heard people, make comments, if there's another nonprofit that tries to start something that the chamber is doing, or if there's something that we start doing that another nonprofit is doing, somebody will inevitably say, well, so-and-so is already doing that. And I come back with the fact that, one, if they're already doing it, then great, there must be a need for it. And two, there's so much need in our community when it comes to, helping entrepreneurs, when it comes to helping businesses grow, when it comes to, attracting new business. I don't think that there is going to ever be an issue where any of us as a nonprofit in our community run out of work. And so what I would prefer to focus on, and I actually wrote about this in an op-ed that I just published last weekend in the El Paso Inc. I look at the Hispanic Chamber and the amazing work that they have been doing with veterans and women-owned small businesses. There is no reason why I would want to start my own programs to compete with them. Instead, we tell our members often, if there's very specific programs and coaching that the Hispanic Chamber offers that we do not, I tell people to go to them. Same thing with the Borderplex Alliance. If there's something that, folks are wanting to recruit a new business, or a new business calls us and they're wanting to look at the El Paso region for recruitment purposes, I call my friends at the Borderplex Alliance and pass that information on to them. I think that communication and understanding of, where our lanes are, but how we can work better together as economic development organizations will do nothing but help the community overall prosper. The El Paso Chamber does not need to take credit for anything, frankly, in this community. I think at the end of the day, when our community is more prosperous, we all win, and that's what we look for.
Again, joining us right now by phone has been Andrea Hutchins, President and CEO of the El Paso Chamber. Again, all the details on their programs, events, resources, and more, elpaso.org. So, Andrea, thank you very much for taking the time to speak with us about this while you're out and about and doing things for and about the community, and on the occasion of your first anniversary here today.
Thank you so much for having me, and really look forward to sharing even better things with you next year.
So again, thanks to Andrea for speaking with us about that. Again, some things that I have been my own criticism of in the past. Interesting conversations going on over in our comments as well, including about the idea of the brain drain, which has been its own focus in recent days from some articles we've brought up. But I guess technically I would fit that bill myself over maybe of a boomerang person the left town, but ended up coming back. I got the hell out of town for a minute, went off to college, developed some things, got some experiences, and decided to come back here and establish a career, do stuff like this because, well, this area is important to me, among other things. But a lot of other comments, including Buddy Vaya saying El Paso needs to promote its proximity to Mexico. I know that has often been a fraught tale to tell, but I mean, honestly, you talk about what are some of the advantages. I mean, like RJ saying, I've heard that old story for decades. El Paso can't compete in many ways, but we're going to talk about accessibility. And frankly, that's one of the things that we've talked about. And I have found very interesting the whole on nearshoring, reshoring, or nearshoring. It's probably closer to what our situation is about, well, what is actually happening in our area, and particularly with the business community. So there's a lot to be talked about, but we'll get more to that here after we take this next break. You're, of course, tuned in to Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk, and coming out of this, we'll get closer to opening up those phone lines and that giveaway that we are going to be doing as we get towards the end of this hour for the upcoming performance this weekend of Zapateados. But stay tuned, more Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. A lot more to talk about, more stuff going on, including some of those congressional or technically Senate challenges involving congresspersons as well. But all those details after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, everyone. This is Robert Olguin with your KFOX 14 news update. El Paso police continue to investigate a deadly crash that happened in central El Paso last night. Investigators say that the driver of a Chevrolet Silverado was speeding and crashed on an overpass, sending the truck flying over the overpass. The truck landed on a dirt lot at the intersection of Piedras and Durazno. The driver was not identified. She was a woman and died at the scene. No one else was in the truck. One person in El Paso County woke up a millionaire. The Texas Lottery says that a winning $1 million Mega Millions ticket was sold at the In-N-Out Marathon gas station on Alameda Avenue in Socorro. The ticket matched all the numbers drawn, but not the jackpot. Had the ticket matched the jackpot, instead of $1 million, the person would have won $1.5 billion. Someone in Florida did win the $1.5 billion Mega Millions jackpot last night. This has been your KFOX 14 news update. I'm Robert Olguin.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
Delays are looking better on the I-10 eastbound after 3 significant crashes on the I-10 eastbound this afternoon. One is still active. That's I-10 eastbound at the 54 Patriot, blocking the right lane, causing backup to Piedras with a 7-minute delay. An accident's blocking one right lane on southbound Joe Battle at Zaragoza, and stop and go I-10 westbound Mesa up to Artcraft, 15-minute delays. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery. 103 for our Thursday with about a 10% chance of an isolated storm for tomorrow. As we look ahead to the weekend, temperatures come down a little more for your Friday and Saturday, and storm chances also come up. 102 for your Friday with about a 20% chance of thunderstorms for your Saturday. 100 degrees with about a 20% chance of a storm. From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery.
This report is sponsored by Our American Stories.
We'll have the next installment of our series about us. This time we'll cover the language and beauty of the Declaration of Independence. Be sure to listen to this week's edition of Our American Stories on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same, but is 95% cheaper? And you can get it online? Just go to 4hims.com/radio. Through Hims, you'll get a free medical consultation, discreet shipping if prescribed, a 100% online process, and trusted generic alternatives to the name brands at up to 95% off. That's right, get generic for Viagra, the same active ingredient as brand name Viagra, but for 95% less. It's the same medication, still prescribed by a licensed medical provider, but with zero copay, no expensive appointments, and no awkward face-to-face conversations. To start your free online visit, you need to go to this exclusive address, 4hims.com/radio. That's forhims.com/radio for your free online visit. forhims.com/radio.
Keep your family and livelihood safe with Mazer Security Alarms. Systems start at under $35 per month. No job is too small or too large. For your free quote or to upgrade your existing system, call Mazer Security Alarms at 915-590-0033.
Life can take a turn for anyone, and if it has for you, remember that there's so much for you to turn to. Everyone needs supportive people and healthy outlets in their lives so you don't have to face hard times alone. Visit turntosupportstx.org for the help that's right for you. This report is sponsored by turntosupportstx.org.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or our twitch.tv, that's the one, at Andrew J. Polk. And of course, Talk El Paso brought to you in part by Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. Of course, find them at 950 Crockett Street, right across I-10 from Sunland Park Mall. It's still Sunland Park Mall for the moment here, and I'm sure that they will stay Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram regardless. And of course, their end of summer celebration sales on for you right now. Get thousands of dollars in cash allowances on, say, their new 2023 Charger and Challenger model. So again, find out all the details. Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. So a whole lot of conversation going on in the comments, including one note from Bernadette Bandicole chiming in saying, just a quick citizens advisory on Tuesday, August 29th at noon. Many citizens plan to be at the city council meeting to protest the quality of animal services and the unfortunate increase in homeless dogs and cats primarily. That's very important. My note here to some out there, and some particularly in our commenter section. But Bernadette going on to say, if you're able to or pass along this message, much appreciated from one animal carer to another/others. So, very happy for people to be getting interested in getting involved and being a part of our local government, certainly. So, also talking about having worked outside of El Paso and run back to El Paso for being superior to other cities. We'll certainly agree with you there, but there's always things to work on. I'll put it that way. And I just got to say, a little bit awkward in some of the comments there as well, including John Adams. I'm hoping this is tongue in cheek, but a question that came into his comment about making a mistake 33 years ago and being asked, don't you like El Paso? Saying, nope, I hate it here. You don't have to stay, right? If this isn't for you, not everyone can handle the heat, the literal heat, not trying to be metaphorical about it. But there's lots to be talked about and still a lot to be improved in the region. So I hope you wouldn't have considered 33 years. Don't throw good years after bad for yourself there, I guess is what I'm trying to say. In any other case, Trito Sack over in the comments also saying, I'm going to do the best to attend that meeting and speak my mind when it comes to the animal services here in El Paso. So that's you're the one I had in mind. Let's just put it that way when I was referencing about people that have had care and concerns about this. So speaking about upcoming concerns or other issues, including don't think that, there's some serious news coming out of Hawaii right now, but Texas on its own is not immune from the heat nor the wildfire issues, including what is possibly going to be going on in some other cities. I know that even Austin, downtown Austin and places around it have had concerns about the possibility of fires within the city and being seeing a wildfire situation. So article title from the Texas Tribune on that one. Texas is preparing for more wildfires without a break from heat in the forecast, noting that number of acres this year burned lower than last year, but that fact that there have been more happening very recently has been at least cause for some concern. And don't think we're immune to it out here. Sure, we are absolutely dry out this way, but we weren't, not the exact best example, but the fact that there were fireworks not immediately banned in the county like it usually has been based on fire fire ratings. Like, we were close. Don't get me wrong. It wasn't like, oh no, it's so much better. We're like a point or two off of the rating that was required to be able to make that determination. So it's not like an out of the woods kind of situation, but also it certainly has happened and had wildfires in our region in the past. So that's an interesting focus. But on that electoral question that I had kind of put forth and been wondering about, who is, and if anyone is seeking to challenge, of course, incumbent Senator Ted Cruz, and that answer, as if reading my mind, a Texas Tribune out with that article today as well. Democrats Colin Allred and Roland Gutierrez draw distinction on key issues as they target Senator Ted Cruz in 2024. So, yes, it's already been 6 years since the whole Beto O'Rourke challenge back then. I think I still got a sign kicking around here somewhere. I mean, whether you liked it or not, it's historic. There has still not been an El Paso, and that I'm aware of, elected to statewide office. I do believe that there was a Speaker of the House back in the day, but that's not a statewide election. It's something that is elected by these state representatives. In any case, we'll see how this one works out. One of the more interesting ones that has been getting talked about has been a interestingly bipartisan moment between specifically Allred, who is a Democrat representative from, I want to say it's South Texas, but now I'm doubting myself. Here, let me look up his exact Dallas. Yeah, he's Dallas. Never mind here. And Roland Gutierrez is a state senator from San Antonio area, but specifically Allred and Cruz kind of working it's been noted in a bipartisan nature on particularly the CHIPS Act and specifically the Texas impacts expected to come along with it, such as Texas Instruments, which is kind of a, oh, right, duh sort of moment. But the impacts expected from that and having it come here is interesting. And John Brazelton with a little bit of speculation there saying, I'm sure Beto will run again. He loves running for office. I'm not saying that he hasn't proved his willingness in the past, but what I will say is that, he seems to have been maybe not content, or it seems is kind of out of the question, but the whole back end of it, because arguably whatever the outcome, how you felt about it from the 2018 Senate race was the idea of, maybe Democrats don't just automatically lose. I mean, okay, they did not win. Don't get me wrong with that race, but the excitement that came around it, and the very least of they got close. What? I mean, I think that moment happened for a lot of people, led to the formation of the organization that is still very much, I do believe, a part of, at least I haven't heard anything to the contrary, of the Powered by People, PXP, I think it gets put as sometimes. And that has been very present in both our community and others, and some of their canvassing and other types of efforts. So whether or not he's going to run again or not, I'm not even willing to speculate on that. But in terms of the organizational and the kind of keeping that going part of it, that part has been very evident. But in any case, Allred and Gutierrez as U.S. reps and state senator respectively, seeking to see who will come out of that primary challenge for it, and both respectively in place since 2018 and 2008 in their own right. So we'll see how it ends up working out for them. And the idea of trying to keep that in place, I know some others saying that, well, maybe not Cruz. There's some debate going on about Cruz and his merits in the comment as well. I'll see that. But the idea of, he's the one that's coming up. Cornyn will be the next election cycle, I do believe, or the following ones, certainly after that point here. Rick Ray is saying Beto for mayor. I don't know if he's considered throwing his hat in that ring, but we'd certainly talk about it if that were to be the case. But in any case, the people who are actually at least planning to be on the ballot, there is a race coming in. Whether or not it ends up working out for them, well, it's one of those things that we will keep our eyes on. And again, yes, O'Rourke does come up in that article from Texas Tribune as, of course, kind of had to happen. And particularly the groundwork being laid, but also some comparing and contrasting between his policies and those between, Gutierrez and Allred is very, very interesting, I do have to say. So take a look at that if you get a chance here. With that, we're going to go ahead and take that next break right now. But coming out of this break, we do have that giveaway we're going to be doing. So for those of you wanting to get on the phone lines, we're going to be doing it right now just for the contest and giveaway. Again, there's the performance one night only of Zapateados, a dance spectacular happening Saturday, August 12th at 8 p.m. at the Plaza Theater. And this is a dance extravaganza featuring an Aztec ritual, intense matachines, fiery flamenco, romantic ballet, pas de dos, I am not saying that one right, but evocative Mexican folklorico, lively Western hoedown, and a high-kicking can-can. And so this being done by some of the same people involved with, and of course, in honor actually as well, of those involved with Viva El Paso. So we are going to be having a few sets of tickets given away. So the first question we will be asking right now. So if those want to get on the line, that number, of course, to dial is 915-544-5876-544-KTSM. For the first two correct answers, we'll be giving a pair of tickets each to when was the last performance in El Paso of Zapateados? When was the last time it was performed in El Paso? So if you got the answer for that one, give us a call again, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. So we'll be back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. And again, if you got the answer to that question, let us know by again calling 915-544-5876-544 KTSM. When was the last time Zapateados was performed in El Paso is the question. We got two tickets on the line for you there. 915-544-5876. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
I-10 eastbound at the Patriot still got congestion in the Spaghetti Bowl due to an earlier crash on the 54 southbound CD lanes at I-10 West, the interchange ramp K. I-10 westbound is slow from Mesa up to Artcraft with 12-minute delays, mostly bumper to bumper. I-10 eastbound is slow from the Upper Valley Vinton down to Artcraft. It's a 10-minute delay. That earlier crash I-10 eastbound at Trowbridge is off to the right. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Our American Stories.
We'll have the next installment of our series about us. This time we'll cover the language and beauty of the Declaration of Independence. Be sure to listen to this week's edition of Our American Stories on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Could you use monthly payments to help meet basic needs, like putting food on the table, paying the rent, or buying new shoes for growing feet? Find out about Supplemental Security Income. You may qualify if your income and financial resources are low and you are 65 or older, or an adult or child with a disability or who is blind. Call 1-800-772-1213 or go to ssa.gov/SSI. Produced by Social Security at U.S. taxpayer expense.
Hi, I'm Burt Ward, Robin from TV's Batman, inviting you to feed your dog natural, non-GMO, Gentle Giants dog and puppy food. Dogs eating Gentle Giants and following our special feeding and care program are living as long as 27 healthy, active years with a wonderful quality of life. Holy wow, 27 years! Think of all the extra years you could enjoy with your dog at Target, H-E-B, and stores near you. Try Gentle Giants cat and kitten food, too.
In this week's Marketers Report, we hear about the importance of local radio from Allison Griffin, head of marketing at State Farm.
iHeart has such a broad broadcast reach that is local, and for us to be able to touch customers with a local feel but at a national scale is so efficient and important for us.
As the #1 audio company, iHeartMedia gives marketers access to the audiences, trusted influencers, and data you need to grow. If you're a marketer, go to iHeartResults.com.
For the local issues and discussion you won't get anywhere else, turn to Talk El Paso, weekdays at 4 right here on News Radio 690 KTSM, brought to you in part by the El Paso Community Foundation. Sound off on what matters to you, Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m., and let's talk El Paso.
El Paso Electric is proud to present The Installers, live in your neighborhood. With their unique talent, they're bringing smart meters to every home and business and harmonies your electric bill. Smart meters give you the power to control energy use so you can rock and save every month. Let me see your hands in the air. Find your tour date at epelectric.com/smartmeters.
Life can take a turn for anyone, and if it has for you, remember that there's so much for you to turn to. Everyone needs supportive people and healthy outlets in their lives so you don't have to face hard times alone. Visit turntosupportstx.org for the help that's right for you.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Quick segment here, but just as a reminder, are doing that giveaway right now on the phone line for the 2 tickets to Zapateados, the performance happening this weekend, Saturday, August 12th at 8 p.m. at the Plaza Theater. Almost got all the giveaways done here, but if you think we got one more set we can give away after this as well. So we got one more trivia question if you want to answer that one instead, and that is going to be, when was Viva El Paso first performed? And if that one's a little bit better for you there, and here's a hint, some of these things are Googleable. But in any case, that is going to be for the 2 tickets to that performance happening 8 p.m. one night only this coming Saturday. Got to take that next break right now. Going out of this break, we'll, of course, fully open up those phone lines, but hopefully have the full giveaway through here. We got at least one pair claimed. Hope we got the next one on the line there for right now, so stay tuned. We're Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. See y'all at the top of the hour.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
I-10 eastbound at the Patriots still got congestion in the Spaghetti Bowl due to an earlier crash on the 54 southbound CD lanes at I-10 West, the interchange ramp K. I-10 westbound is slow from Mesa up to Artcraft with 12-minute delays, mostly bumper to bumper. I-10 eastbound is slow from the Upper Valley Vinton down to Artcraft. It's a 10-minute delay. That earlier crash I-10 eastbound at Trowbridge is off to the right. Carry it's El Paso traffic.
Radio 690
iHeartRadio Music Festival is coming back to
T-Mobile
Radio in Las Vegas this September.
Superstar artists from every genre.
Streaming live only on Hulu.
Buy tickets now at AXS.com.
If you're hiring, it can feel like you're trying to find a needle in a haystack. You can hope the right person comes along, or you can just use ZipRecruiter. And now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. In fact, ZipRecruiter has helped a lot of business owners find their needle in a haystack, like Marco, president of operations at Telly Tires and Auto Centers. Because Telly Tires has grown a lot in the last few years, Marco needed to hire everyone from a receptionist to a store manager to a head mechanic.
ZipRecruiter helps me find all the right people, even the most difficult jobs to fill. ZipRecruiter helps me keep my business running.
Take it from Marco and millions of other businesses who've used ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter can help you find the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/RADIO. ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. At least 6 people are dead as a massive wildfire burns out of control on Hawaii's Maui Island. Lieutenant Governor Sylvia Luke said Wednesday hurricane-force winds in the region and drought conditions have fueled this fire. The fire has devastated the tourist town of Lahaina on the northwestern tip of Maui.
The state is providing whatever support that we can to give support to both Maui and to the Big Island.
President Biden is brushing off questions about his alleged involvement in his son's foreign business deals. The Republican-controlled House Oversight Committee released documents it says shows Hunter Biden's deals with Russia and Ukraine brought in $20 million to President Biden's family and their allies. When asked about it on the campaign trail Wednesday, Biden called the question lousy and once again said he had nothing to do with Hunter Biden's business deals while he was vice president. A Utah man is dead following an FBI raid connected to alleged threats he made against President Biden. The FBI said the shooting happened as special agents tried to serve arrest and search warrants at a Provo residence. An American woman is out on bail in the Bahamas after being charged in a suspected murder for hire plot against her husband. Lisa Taylor reports.
Lindsay Shiver was accused of conspiring to kill her husband, Robert Shiver, a former Auburn University football player. She was granted bail of $100,000 by a Bahamian Supreme Court justice. Shiver, a 36-year-old from Georgia, must wear an electronic monitoring device and follow a curfew. I'm Lisa Taylor.
PPI medications are being linked to a greater risk of dementia for those taking them over several years. That's according to research published in the journal Neurology. PPI medications are proton pump inhibitors, which millions of Americans take to treat heartburn and acid reflux. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio.
The Biden administration is defending its decision to pull out of Afghanistan.
We believe it's a correct policy choice, but again, I would never want to quibble with a family member who has suffered such an enormous tragedy.
State Department spokesman Matthew Miller declined whether to say it was a success. The administration has faced sharp criticism over the chaotic withdrawal. A suicide bombing killed 13 U.S. troops and 170 Afghans in 2021. Families of service members killed earlier this week said publicly they had received inadequate answers from the administration on what occurred at the Kabul airport. Reports say a Utah man was shot and killed during an FBI raid related to threats against President Biden Wednesday morning. ABC News reports the shooting happened as special agents tried to serve arrest and search warrants at a Provo residence. One official told the outlet the investigation started in April and the Secret Service was notified about it in June. A man from San Diego who entered the U.S. Capitol on January 6th is being sentenced to 3 years probation. The Times of San Diego says Josiah Hueso pleaded guilty to a misdemeanor count of parading, demonstrating, and picketing in the Capitol building. His attorney says Hueso regrets his actions, was in the Capitol for less than 10 minutes, and did not engage in any violence, theft, or property destruction. Tropical storm Eugene is moving up the coast from Baja California today, bringing with it a lot of moist air. Weather forecasters say today along the coast will be cooler, cloudier, but humidity levels will be high. X has a new offer for prospective advertisers. Matt Mattinson has more.
The social media platform, formerly known as Twitter, has an exclusive contract with digital ad tech firm Integral Ad Science. The company's technology will give advertisers the option to ensure their messages do not appear next to controversial content.
Golfer Jon Rahm has what he calls a crazy request for the PGA Tour, a porta potty at every hole. The two-time major champion told reporters that his bar is pretty low right now. Even if he could change anything on the PGA Tour, he acknowledged it's an unusual request, but said he can't choose when I have to go to the bathroom, and has already made the request in the past. Lisa Taylor, NBC News Radio.
Now, your chance at $1,000 and a trip to our 2023 iHeartRadio Music Festival. Yeah! Text the nationwide keyword Vegas to 200-200. You'll get a confirmation text and info. Standard data and message rates apply in this nationwide contest. That's Vegas to 200-200.
Get ready to win your way to our 2023 iHeartRadio Music Festival and $1,000.
You'll be there.
T-Mobile Arena here in Las Vegas.
September 22nd and 23rd.
Streaming live only on Hulu.
The iHeartRadio Music Festival.
Introducing Audible's new original series, Breakthrough, the first of its kind audio-only singing competition featuring celebrity judges Kelly Rowland and Sarah Bareilles, with host Daveed Diggs. Hear who has what it takes. Listen on Audible or wherever you get your podcasts.
This report is sponsored by turntosupportstx.org. Life can take a turn for anyone, and if it has for you, remember that there's so much for you to turn to. Everyone needs supportive people and healthy outlets in their lives so you don't have to face hard times alone. Visit turntosupportstx.org for the help that's right for you.
Keep your family and livelihood safe with a stable security system from Mazer Security Alarms. Your trusted El Paso security expert since 1982. You can get the best. Systems start at under $35 per month with upfront purchase to lease options and $0 down payment packages available. Get the peace of mind you deserve with Mazer Security Alarms. For your free quote or to upgrade your existing system, call Mazer Security Alarms at 915-590-0033. Mazer Security Alarms.
Only iHeartRadio gives you access to all of your favorite radio stations.
It's the Rod Ryan Show.
It's the
Woody Show.
It's Elliot in the morning. All of the once-in-a-lifetime events. All of the best free curated playlists. The best bands. All of the great podcasts for every interest.
The stuff they don't want you to know.
All of the mind-blowing contests.
$20,000.
Awesome. All of your favorite superstars.
This is Dave Grohl from the Foo Fighters.
Best of all, it doesn't cost a thing. Download the absolutely free iHeartRadio app now.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of conversations, a lot of things being discussed and going on over there, and I'm very happy to say that we have gotten our winners for the giveaway for those, again, tickets for Zapateados happening this weekend, Saturday, August 12th at 8 p.m. at the Plaza Theater. But if you weren't one of the lucky winners there, who I do believe have also stuck around on the line to talk with us here, so we'll get into the regular phone calls here as we do at this point as well. So if you want to get on the line, again, full up at the moment, but keep the number handy, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. But I do believe tickets are still available for, again, Zapateados, a dance spectacular happening at the Plaza Theater. So the answer to those questions, in case anyone was wondering, this is the first performance of Zapateados since 2003. So that was the answer to the one question. And of course, being very much related to, and in fact, in honor of this performance of, and including some of those, particularly Hector Serrano, artistic director for particularly Eden Performing Arts of Viva El Paso. So check that out if you can. Again, Saturday, 8 p.m., August 12th, at the Plaza Theater. Tickets are available at the Plaza Theater box office or at Ticketmaster.com. And so congrats to our winners on that. And just a couple other notes. We will maybe have more giveaways in the future, but we'll try to announce them as much as we can. But also a lot of other commentary coming in, including merits of different parts of New Mexico, which is not exactly the way I thought that this kind of a thing would go, but also some discussion about living in town and dealing with things, and also former or wannabe elected officials. I mean, they have been former as well, including Buddy Baez saying, I think we've all had enough of Beto. I mean, I think that's been part of his willingness to be out of the spotlight for a bit. So I guess you could call it duck status. You know, you see a duck floating along and it means they may look calm on the surface, but paddling like hell under the water is a decent way to think of it, at least the way I do. Any case, a lot going on, but let's get right to those phone lines now. Again, the number to call full up at the moment, 915-544-5876-544-KTSM. But we do have Kevin on the east side here with us right now. Kevin, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Andrew. I have an idea that sounds a little bit wacky, and I'm throwing this idea out. Not that I'm pushing it.
Okay.
But it's just that I want to stir up the cobwebs in the heads of some of our leaders, political leaders, in El Paso.
Fair enough.
And in the county, because we need to come up with a solution to this property dilemma that you mentioned in the beginning of the program. You mentioned about property taxes.
Sure.
Okay, here it is. A friend of mine in Virginia informed me that in his state, property tax includes not only the property in the house that you have on that property, but it also includes the vehicles that you own.
Oh, mm-hmm.
And I am not advocating this for El Paso, but what I'm saying is this. There are people on the block where I live who have, I've counted them, 2 people at least that have 5 vehicles. There are other people that have 3 or 4 or maybe 2. And I think it would be more equitable to everyone concerned if instead of taxing the property and the house, we took a look at the vehicles that the people own. And I know that they paid for them. I know they paid the sales tax. I know all that. But can we push this property tax over on vehicle owners and have a more equitable distribution of the tax burden? I don't know if that can be tried or if it's even worth it. But just something to throw out there, Andrew, to get people, especially in the government, to think about it at least.
I mean, it's an interesting idea. I want to say that about half of states do have some form of vehicle tax or vehicle tax rate. And no, it's not like your registration, but literally like, hey, this is the value of your vehicle and your tax this much on it. Texas is among the half that, of course, does not do that. But like the lowest rate I'm finding, it was part of a conversation we actually had in that interview we had with Wallet Hub some months ago. But Louisiana has the lowest at like 0.1%, and the highest is Virginia, which sits at like just under about 4% of the vehicle's value. So it's an interesting concept, and I'll just put it this way. I think that anyone seriously suggesting that in Texas, given the way Texas has, like on, say, income taxes, tied the knights very tight indeed about making that not a possibility, or at the very least not a real probability, at least logistically and politically speaking. That's I'm not going to say tar and feathering would come straight to mind, but the modern political equivalent would of anyone seriously suggesting that. But it does. I mean, I take the way you intended it there, the idea of it being okay. Are there other ways to go about this? And I'll kind of say that Texas has maybe been working to achieve that, particularly when it comes to the idea of the usage fees. And I mean, it may or may not be being implemented well or properly. There's argument happening on that, particularly on the idea of there being a surcharge for electric vehicles, because a lot of the usage fees when it comes to vehicles for roadways, maintenance, etc., come from the fuel surcharges. And given the fact that, electric vehicles would not be a part of that. That's been kind of the way, it's an eye towards that. So maybe not exactly the way you're describing, but maybe more in the spirit of it. I don't know.
Yeah, see, you're thinking. You're thinking of these different ways, and I appreciate that, and I wish that our elected and appointed leaders would start, as I say, thinking and shaking the cobwebs out of their head and coming up with new ideas that may or may not work, but let's try something. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, there's different ways we can achieve this, different ways of looking at it. Again, I feel like Texas is on the cusp of, okay, maybe not really, but could be on the cusp of even having like a significant sovereign wealth fund. But that would probably take a lot more constitutional changes than maybe any one election could achieve. But I mean, hey, if these surpluses were, okay, we've got one year, one data point, or one biennium, technically, that we've got here currently so far. So, I mean, if that were to continue, it would raise the question of, well, I'm sure people would ask first, frankly, of, okay, well, maybe we should be lessening some of these fees if we keep having surpluses. But also, I mean, if it would be okay, but we're doing the things we want to with them, maybe making that, and so that it's not just, yeah, we got this much money every year, and now it's gone. And it's gone, to quote South Park, as I often do. But it would be maybe moving that into a, essentially an endowment for the state. I don't know if that's even feasible or possible. We'll see again what happens in future years, but maybe that would be other ways of doing it, particularly since, I mean, Texas often vaunts its mineral and natural resources wealth. So, hey, stranger things have happened.
Well, I just like to close out my part of this conversation
Sure.
by saying that I am opposed to having this vehicle valuation
Sure.
on to the regular property tax that we pay. That is of the question as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah,
I don't like it.
Fair enough here. Well, I do appreciate the point in the call and the idea along with it. You have a good one there.
Thank you. You too, Andrew. Bye.
All right. And with that, tell you what, let's go ahead and take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, we got more calls in the line and a lot of people in the comments commenting on these ideas. Hope that clarification from Kevin at the end right there gave that a little bit more. But let's go ahead and take that break right now. Coming out of this break, we will get to more calls, more comments, more of everything we got on the line there for you. So again, that number to call, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM with the 915 in front of it. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
An earlier crash in the Spaghetti Bowl near I-10 and the Patriot is cleared. All lanes are back open in all directions. Gateway east at Copia, a stalled vehicle is blocking the right lane. An earlier crash southbound Joe Battle at Zaragoza is cleared. All lanes back open there. And it's a 14-minute delay I-10 westbound Mesa to Artcraft. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by TurnToSupportsTX.org. Life can take a turn for anyone. And if it has for you, remember that there's so much for you to turn to. Everyone needs supportive people and healthy outlets in their lives so you don't have to face hard times alone. Visit TurnToSupportsTX.org for the help that's right for you.
In today's Marketers Report, Kate Cronin, Chief Brand Officer of Moderna, weighs in on the speed of audio production.
In this day and age, and particularly at Moderna, where we have new information coming out on a regular basis, being able to feed that information to the audio format makes being nimble and pivoting easy, and that's what I really like about it.
As the #1 audio company, iHeartMedia gives marketers access to the audiences, influencers, insights, and data you need to grow. If you're a marketer, go to iHeartResults.com.
The El Paso Community Foundation supports the causes you feel passionate about here in the Borderland, whether it's education, social services, arts and culture, the environment, health, or economic development. The El Paso Community Foundation has been promoting philanthropy and progress in our hometown region for more than 45 years. Make your mark with us. Start a fund today for good, for El Paso, forever. Learn more at epcf.org. That's epcf.org.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free. Just go to this exclusive web address, ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
If you see something, why do you say something?
I see safe for my friends.
For my community.
For everyone here. We all have something worth protecting, a why that unifies us. Report suspicious activity to local authorities. If you see something, say something.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Ruli's International Kitchen, the perfect great little gourmet dive for your everyday celebrations or special occasions, because they've always got new features, particularly at the front door. I always check out their new features because they're always working on something else, something different, something new, and yet familiar, with brilliantly combined international flavors with stuff that, well, you just can't find anywhere else. And so if you want to find them, they're, of course, at 4176 North Mesa, not too far from Mesa and Executive, or our stations here on the west side. You can, of course, also give them a call to make your reservation, 915-313-4806. That's 915-313-4806. Of course, they do have their Rick at Night, as in Ruli's International Kitchen, continuing on here for the rest of, on Friday and Saturday nights, rest of this month. So check them out there for their reverse happy hours and, of course, their great wood-fired pizza specials. Find them online for all the details. RulisIK.com for Ruli's International Kitchen. That's RulisIK.com.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk, whichever way works best for y'all to get in here, see the show, or listen, participate to your satisfaction. That's all that really matters. Is, of course, we do have those phone lines open, if full up at the moment, but a lot more conversation also going on as well on our various social media channels over there, including a discussion about that idea about about the vehicle tax here. I'll be honest, the first time I heard about it, I think I had the same kind of knee-jerk reaction. You're going to do what to my vehicle? But let's just say the idea of, I mean, sure, it's been kind of put forth, at the very least it was technically for one of the most recent special legislative sessions, of actually kind of thinking of mistaking which one exactly it was put forth as one of the instructions from Governor Greg Abbott about essentially setting a path towards the elimination, as much as is feasible, of the property tax. And while it's an interesting idea, and the idea of excise or usage taxes continuing on, I mean, we've seen the idea of the inspections and those fees going away, except for like here and the other major counties, the most populous ones anyway, within the state of Texas, that still have emissions requirements, etc. So your mileage, no pun intended, may vary, but it's always interesting to have the conversation about that. So to that point, let's get back on the phone lines here right now. We do have Johnny over in Central on the line with us here right now. Johnny, thanks for joining us.
Yes, good evening. Good evening. I wish I was as lucky with that answer as I could have been with the big mega tickets last night. But
sure,
anyway,
we'll be having a different conversation than if that were the case.
Yeah, I was explaining to the lady. She said, I was surprised you got it. So she thought I had went on the internet and got it. But no, I knew the answer to the Viva El Paso because it was personal. My then 15-year-old son was one of the team on the 1978 opening of the Viva El Paso.
Okay.
Yeah, and he, we at the time he was going to Urban High School. I'm going to make it short. but he was going to Urban High School, and at that time they were recruiting for high school students, anybody that wanted to go. And he at that time was thinking about going into show business, and the closest he ever got was going to New York and becoming a saxophone player and helping out there. That's how he ended up. But anyway, he started us going, but the thing about it became so personal up until the time that we went every year for the last 48 years, except when we were not in town for some reason. Like me in particular, I was in the military.
Sure.
I wasn't there all the time, but I tried to go to every one. I only missed, and this is the truth, I might have missed in these 48 years maybe 5 different times. The last one I attended was Friday before last, because it ended this past weekend, and we just love it. And what we love so much about that is that opening scene when they come out there singing Viva, the Obama song, and we just love it. But anyway,
that's some dedication. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, we just love it. Viva Paso. As a matter of fact, when we used to have family from around the country come into town, a lot of them want to go over the water because a lot of them have never been out of the country. But then we always try to lure them up on the McKellican Canyon to go to Viva Paso. And every one of them ever visited with us, they always left here happy. They did like it. But anyway, that's my story on it. So I am going to go down there Saturday and pick up my tickets.
Excellent.
And thank you guys so much.
Well, no, thank you very much, and appreciate you calling in here with that, and congratulations again. I hope you all enjoy.
Thank you so much. We plan to. Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you very much for that as well there. So, I mean, happy to give it away, and particularly for people who are very excited about it. That's the kind of the ideal, I do suppose, there. Anyway, let's get to more callers on the line here. We do have online with us Eric on the east side with us right now. Eric, thanks for joining us.
Hello there. On March 30th and 31st, we had a quality discussion about your concern about a race war in America and the racial balkanization of the country due to more non-white Hispanic immigrants coming into the country. And the context of that conversation was Barbara's full-blown white supremacist literature she shared on your show's Facebook page titled Our Race is Our Nation, Balkanization of America. During that conversation, you told me and your listeners that the Great Replacement theory is a very well-known white supremacist theory that the white race, as much as it exists as a concept, is trying to be replaced, end quote. And your loyal follower, Stephen, said on Friday, the Great Replacement theory, that is something Democrats brought up. Joe Biden brought it up himself when he was vice president, that importing non-white people is the source of our strength and that it was a good thing. End quote. And 2 days ago, when I brought up that this is a false white supremacist narrative produced by an edited video from Fox News and Tucker Carlson's show, Stephen commented on your show's Facebook page an article he had curated from 2013 to promote his view that Democrats are trying to replace the white race for political purposes. Like, Stephen was not promoting some nuanced immigration policy based on replacing a dwindling population to improve our economy in the long run. Stephen was referring to the theory that you yourself said was a white supremacist theory, the Great Replacement. Like, call me crazy, but if someone believes, defends, and promotes a white supremacist theory that that increases racism against non-whites, that promotes the idea we need to value white people more than non-whites, and that we need to protect the size of the white population, that person's a white supremacist no matter what they tell themselves, what is in their hearts, or even the color of their skin. And you suggested I was making slanderous statements about Stephen when I referred to him as a white supremacist for promoting these ideas. And, I'm a bit confused because that seems like you're defending and encouraging and promoting Stephen's white supremacist ideas, whether you intended to or not.
Okay, so let's be honest here. You've been more than a little bit generous, isn't the right word. What would be the opposite here? Liberal, not the one I'm meaning here either, but wide branding with the, I do believe you called Barbara at that point in time, to quote from you directly, a militant white supremacist here. So, let's take that as given here that I'm not exactly granting you the arbiter of truth status in my or anyone else's lives here. But okay, on the theory itself, on the idea of the Great Replacement, because let's make it very clear what we're talking about here when it comes to that, and the idea of essentially, to my understanding of it here, because literature that is not immediately odious and heinous to the person is a little bit hard to come by, at least from source material on this. Analysis of it is one thing, but on the source material, the idea of there being underground various sources being cited as the cause or contributors to it, the idea of removing, and even the phrases like, white genocide get thrown around along with it, along the idea of trying to remove, replace, or otherwise no longer have around what we would legally, I guess, refer to as Caucasians or, whites in general, of which is, we've seen some shifting in that phrase in its own way, haven't we? Ever since, because I want to say that, I want to say there's some implications from, again, a source material that's kind of hard to find, at the very least, without ending up on more watch lists than I'd be willing to. Like the Turner Diaries is what I've seen as sourced as part of this here. And we've seen some shifting of that in more recent years. So like a European heritage, or the idea of that as being a further definition of it, which I gotta say, as an aside, is a hilarious phrase, and the idea of some kind of unity there, because you go to Europe these days and you talk to basically any two countries that share a border, much less a historic one, and you ask them about, your great shared heritage, but France, Germany, your great shared heritage, or even more within what is technically a union, not a country. You ask someone in Scotland about their great shared heritage with the British, and I hope you have that travel insurance coverage or are going to be willing to be subject to their healthcare system, because you're going to get into a fight. Let me just put it that way. So anyone trying to bring that up as a great European, like that, is just a cover for the kind of thing. And the fact that individuals, including that were part of the founding area of the alt-right, is just, it was a hilarious phrase to begin with if it weren't real life kind of situation. So anyone out there truly saying that that they're espousing the idea that all of this purpose is going towards us, I mean, yes, there are economic theories. There are things about, I've actually been doing a deep dive into, separate from this, Japan, and they're literally having things shut down in particularly remote areas because there aren't enough people there anymore. So that's kind of the flip side of, if you don't have enough population support, you're starting to deal with depopulation. It's trends and continuing issues, as much as, the idea of like the baby boomer generation and things like that being dealt with, and, the support networks for that, Social Security, all those kind of things. It's to crank it up to 11 with the situation and the rapidly aging population going on over there in Japan. But to your core point, when you label people with this, and again, you've been more than, again, generous isn't the right phrase, but it's the best one it can come to here, of saying that, particularly people who end up disagreeing with you. And again, let's make this perfectly clear. You have put this with most of the listeners and commenters on this show. So don't think that I'm not seeing you painting with a very, very, very broad brush here on the idea of someone thinking, particularly if someone of, non-white or Caucasian things. And I get it. There can be, the ingrained racism and the arguments that come along with that. But when you start labeling people as, hey, this person is bad based on the label I have given them here, let's just say I'm not trusting your labeling abilities, because you have certainly treated this in the past as a, hey, I have given someone this label, therefore that means that they automatically lose this in all future arguments here. And if that's the way you're coming at this, and that has very much been my impression of it, and if that's the way you intended to come across, well, it has been therefore well received. If not, then you might want to be rethinking about how you go about this. Now, am I agreeing with the white replacement theory or the great replacement theory as something that is good, or particularly one that is reasonable to have? Absolutely not, because you look at the power structures and the way they exist in this country. I mean, there's conversations and wider ones that happen around the concepts of, say, privilege and precedents and other things like that are probably better sourced for other conversations and other persons. But when you do that kind of thing, when you're talking about all of the people listening to a particular program as fitting your definitions of what would be bad people, I don't feel like that's too much of a reach of it here. You're going to find me maybe not taking you at your word. Let's just end up putting it that way. So with that, and I'm sure you've got more to say, and we will do it on further days here, but just know, if you're trying to bring the receipts on it here, I mean, all the things I say on this program are out there, reviewable here, and you can cite and source it to your heart's content here. But just know that because you call someone bad does not mean I'm going to agree with you, even if I agree that the concept or the idea, what you're putting forth, like, yeah, no, anyone who calls themselves a legitimate white supremacist is not going to find themselves much support on this show. But if you're going to treat everyone in the same vein as saying like, I'm not sure about these ideas, in the same way as, a white hooded Klan member, gonna be disagreeing with you there in general. Again, we exist for conversation, and if you just want to say these people should not be allowed to talk or anywhere near along that concept, simple answer, no, because that's not how this works. In any case, we're going to go ahead and take that next break right now. Coming out after this break, we'll be back on the line with more of the calls, more of the comments, more of everything else we do at this point during the program there. So if you want to get on the line, that number to do so is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, everyone. This is Robert Olguin with your KFOX 14 news update. El Paso police continue to investigate a deadly crash that happened in central El Paso last night. Investigators say that the driver of a Chevrolet Silverado was speeding and crashed on an overpass, sending the truck flying over the overpass. The truck landed on a dirt lot at the intersection of Piedras and Durazno. The driver was not identified. She was a woman and died at the scene. No one else was in the truck. One person in El Paso County woke up a millionaire. The Texas Lottery says that a winning $1 million Mega Millions ticket was sold at the In-N-Out Marathon gas station on Alameda Avenue in Socorro. The ticket matched all the numbers drawn, but not the jackpot. Had the ticket matched the jackpot, instead of $1 million, the person would have won $1.5 billion. Someone in Florida did win the $1.5 billion Mega Millions jackpot last night. This has been your KFOX 14 news update. I'm Robert Olguin.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
Big delays on the I-10 this afternoon due to all the road construction on the 10 westbound Mesa to Artcraft. 18-minute delays. Slow traffic I-10 eastbound from Vinton to Artcraft. A 10-minute delay there. A crash reported southbound Lee Trevino at Montwood Drive, and a stalled van with a trailer is on the right shoulder I-10 westbound at Joe Battle Boulevard. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery. 103 for our Thursday with about a 10% chance of an isolated storm for tomorrow. As we look ahead to the weekend, temperatures come down a little more for your Friday and Saturday, and storm chances also come up. 102 for your Friday with about a 20% chance of thunderstorms for your Saturday. 100 degrees with about a 20% chance of a storm. From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery.
This report is sponsored by Wendy's BOGO $1 deal. Wendy's BOGO $1 deal is back at participating Wendy's. Buy a Dave single, spicy chicken sandwich, 10-piece nugs, or medium frosty, and get another for $1. Double your deliciousness. Hurry, this BOGO deal won't last.
Attention business owners. Was your company impacted during COVID? If you had W-2 employees during 2020 and 2021, you may be entitled for up to $26,000 per employee through the Employee Retention Credit Program. This is not a loan. The IRS paid back billions already. We've helped thousands of businesses just like yours. So let us help you. At ERC Business Solutions, we make it simple. We do it all for you, so you won't have to worry about the complex application process. There's absolutely no risk. If you don't get paid, we don't get paid. Most businesses do qualify, even those with no decline in revenues or those that already got PPP. Discover how much you can claim. There's no cost or obligation. Call now, 800-200-2250. That's 800-200-2250. Get up to $26,000 per employee. Call 800-200-2250. 800-200-2250.
Protection for all, peace of mind for you. For over 40 years, Mazer Security Alarms has proudly served El Paso with superior service and superior protection. You can afford the best. For your free quote or to upgrade your existing system, call Mazer Security Alarms at 915-590-0033.
Staples Print and Marketing Services help small business print big for less. And now at Staples, you can save even more with 50% back in rewards on print orders. Ends 8/12. Exclusions apply. Rewards members only. Rewards redeemable in-store only. Save for your business at Staples. This report is sponsored by Staples Stores.
Text and whatever. Just don't text and drive. Visit StopTextsStopWrecks.org. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch.tv, either under Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk. Phone lines are open if full up at the moment. 915-544-5876 is the number to keep handy. In any case, we'll squeeze in what we can before the end of the show here. And as was mentioned by one commenter and has been confirmed by our news partners at KFox14, trying to find the comment. There was death penalty for sheriff killer. It's put forth by Richard Janasik. And our news partners at KFox14. Man convicted of shooting, killing Deputy Peter Herrera, sentenced to death. Noting that a jury has sentenced Facundo Chavez to the death penalty after several days of deliberations. I know we don't often focus on some of the trials and things going on with it, but as this is happening right now, and we're expecting a news conference from El Paso District Attorney Bill Hicks before too long here with more of the details and aftermath. So that's one thing going on as we are on here. So yes, it is Facundo we're talking about there. In any case, getting back to those phone lines now, as there's other conversations going on there as well. We do have Steve on the east side here with us right now. Steve, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Andrew.
Hey there.
So,
what's on your mind?
I have to call and defend myself because I thoroughly embarrassed Eric when he called last Friday, and so that's why he came after me and trying to take a lot of my conversation out of context. And so I can really quickly resolve this. When Democrats came up with this idea of demographics are destiny, this was in the early 2000s. I have a long memory. I don't forget things like him the day after because he's smoking pot all day. So what happened was they had this strategy and this idea, demographics are destiny. What does that mean? That means certain demographics, whether they're minorities, Hispanics, it goes by age and all these different things. If they vote in certain ways, then they predict that that's how people would vote going forward. And if you don't believe that Democrats believe this, then listen to Joe Biden in the last election when he said, "You haven't been able to decide if you're going to vote for me or Trump, then you ain't black." Okay, so what is Joe Biden saying when he says that? He says, of course the minorities, of course black people are going to vote for me. And if you don't, then you shouldn't even consider yourself black. So that's how much they believe in this idea that your race determines how you're going to vote. Now, the Democrats were pushing this idea, demographics is destiny, isn't true, okay? Because as we've seen in Florida, DeSantis probably wouldn't have won without Cuban immigrants from Florida. If certain policies start to affect people in a certain way, they're going to flip parties. Just like happened in Texas, since that South Texas town, the county that was getting kind of like all this chaos from illegal immigration, they flipped to Republican. So the fact that a Republican or conservative like myself will point out what the Democrats have been saying for decades and that's actually the racist part. The racist part is thinking that people are a monolith, a certain group, a minority is only going to vote a certain way because of their race. That's actually the racist part that the Democrats always push for all these years. What's not racist is pointing out that Democrats believe that, and they might try to use that in elections in the future. So the article that was posted from Politico, that article just talks about, the title of it, Immigration Reform Could Be a Bonanza for Dems. That's from the Political article 2013. And that's what they're talking about. They're talking about that kind of thinking, that if you're a certain race, you're only going to vote a certain way. And so on this show, I've come on and explained that that isn't even true. People don't work that way, because you're going to find people, and I even on my call last Friday, from Venezuela, they might have seen what happened with socialism in their country. So what really matters is your ideas. And that's what conservatives talk about, your ideas. We're not obsessed with race like Eric and people like them. We care about what you think and what your ideas are. And what we don't want are people thinking that bigger government, more government control over your life, getting dependent on government programs your whole life. That's what we want to discourage. And just like I said on Friday, it doesn't matter what your race is, because I even specifically talked about neo-Nazis. They're not bad just because they're racist. They're bad because they're socialists. And they want all these government programs to go to white people and prefer white people. Meanwhile, and Democrats have this difference, or conservatives, I should say, and leftists more properly, have this difference where we want to look at the content of your character and your ideas and what you believe, not the color of your skin. So that being the case, people like Eric then will try to flip the script and say, well, you might be black, you might be Hispanic, but you're still a white supremacist, or you've internalized racism even though you're a minority and your race, because you believe in certain things. And those things might be, personal responsibility, showing up to work on time. So Eric is still going to call people white supremacists if they're black or Hispanic or whatever, if they don't have the ideas that Eric espouses. So the great replacement theory, he expands it way beyond what most people talk about it. Most people talk about it as Democrats think that if they have more minorities come in the country, that they're going to vote a certain way. That's racist. What's not racist is pointing out that Democrats think that way, and they might try to use that to their advantage politically for votes.
And that's certainly, I would say that some of the taken for grantedness, and it doesn't even bear out in reality. Like you look at voting bases in, say, Florida. Far away from our current area, of course, here, and the politics that we have in this area. There was the concept, particularly near the border, of the blue wall that has kind of not totally borne out in reality here, but particularly in Florida, where a lot of the Hispanic population is more of like a Cuban or a Caribbean islands. Or points of origin, or at least of the ancestors of people who are now inhabiting those areas. And so those types of things end up being, different for, what they have and the way they end up pursuing their politics. So that is so much to say that it's not necessarily a given. And we've had some interesting conversations with guests in the past about, sure, the concern and the rise of identity politics is really what this is getting at, as if the determination of how you should vote is determined by any of those, immutable characteristics, things that you cannot change about yourself, that are ingrained the way that you end up, being born, and the part of your ancestry and how you came to be. But that it's kind of a bunk theory on its own way, saying that, because of what you look like and any other kind of thing, ends up making it that's just how you have to be. That's not a theory I'm going to support in any way, shape, or form in its own right. But I wouldn't say that what you're talking about there, the great replacement theory in capital letters is one about the idea that any of these efforts, or any things going on with, again, a variety of things, including immigration, but to be expanded to other things, including support or lack thereof on the idea of the removal of a particular race, in this case, the white one. And that one, a lot of people end up putting this forth, have I have a lot of issues with them in a lot of other ways, including with this one.
Well, again, that's just Eric taking what I actually said out of context and ignoring everything else I said on Friday. But let's just think about what the actual basis of this is. It is what we just talked about. And so from Time Magazine 2021, here's just a perfect resume of it, is that, quote, "It's become something of a cliche in Washington for Democrat strategists to assert that, quote, demographics are destiny," unquote. What they mean is that the diversifying electorate and the shrinking role of white voters will render Republicans incapable of sustaining power for much longer. Democrat legend James Carville even wrote a book predicting as much, 40 more years, how Democrats will rule the next generation. So that idea that you're just going to vote a certain way because of your race, trust me, that is absolutely not true. And just watch certain communities. If people start pushing like radical gender theory in the schools, you'll probably see a lot of Latino voters flip. You've already seen a lot of like Muslim immigrant groups protesting those in the schools in different parts of the country. You're going to see demographics definitely is not destiny. And I never said that was the case. That's more of a Democrat kind of theory, that's actually the racist part, if you ask me. And no, I never said, oh, they're going to replace white people or whatever, or that we need to protect white people from being replaced. No one cares. I specifically said, no one cares what your race is, your color. It's all about what you believe and your ideals. And that's what really matters. I've been pushing that idea for a long time, and you can check the receipts on that.
Fair enough here. Well, I do appreciate the point in the call and answering to that. So you have a good one there.
Thanks.
All right, with that, I think we can squeeze on one or more call or so here to our level best. We do have Marco in Central on the line here with us right now. Marco, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Andrew, how's it going?
Doing all right there. What's on your mind?
Man, it's been pretty heavy. Guys, again,
Fair enough.
Steven and Eric, listen, go to the UN again. Replacement migration theory for an aging population, okay? This is the saddest thing, Andrew. I want you to see how the superstructure of the bureaucracy that exists in the UN plants the poison in the world. And they don't care. They're like Fabian socialists. You know their motto, right? It's a turtle and it shows them punching real slow, but their motto is when we hit hard. And so they don't mind building the engine. They don't mind if you turn around and call people racist, whatever. The idea is there. They make it as innocuous as possible. Here you go. Now, you as the leader of your country, use this vehicle however you want. Some countries use it responsibly. Other countries, like in America, unfortunately today, we have a party, and you know this is by design. Okay, early in 2000s, Democrats supported border security. They were against illegal immigration. You can go back and listen to speeches by Joe Biden. Who was the other Speaker of the House? Oh no, Speaker of the Senate, and he was there for years. From Las Vegas. You remember who I'm talking about?
Oh, Harry Reid?
Harry Reid.
The Senate majority leader. Well, when he was in the majority.
Absolutely. Go look at videos from him. He sounds like an alt-righter, okay? And he's just like, oh my God, we can't have... And so we have to understand that the scenes change because the battlefields change, okay? I'm going to give you another example. Antifa, we'll say Antifa and the brown shirts, okay? Antifa, this is 1934 Germany. Okay, Antifa existed.
Okay.
They were actually anti-fascist, okay? Okay, cool. But anti-fascist is a word to mean anti-establishment. Nothing to do with anti-fascism because they themselves are fascists.
Okay.
They're looking what they just did today. They had a trial for Andy No. He loses. The district attorney's like, I'm going to remember all your faces to all of the jurors. And you had Antifa doxing these people. And so the institutions exist. And I want Eric and I want Stephen to understand that, well, yes, those arguments are there. They're meant to divide us. We have to find a way to get together again. And this is what Vivek Ramaswamy is fighting about. This is what my campaign's about. How can we need to see the systems that have been created because the Overton window has been shifted so far.
Okay.
We're not even having the discussions that Ronald Reagan came out and said, hey, the problem with your lives is that government is impeding them. We used to talk, and I still do, we used to talk in terms of I and we. Now we just refer to each other as the masses. I don't do that. I refuse to do that. You're not legion to me. Legion is demons. You're the individual, and I want to know the universe through your eyes. So we need to find a way to get back to the idea of the individual, and we need to shed away the idea of the superstate. But I want to leave you with this. I'll ask your permission. Is it okay if I give out a YouTube channel that belongs to me, or is that something you don't want to do?
Tell you what, if you want to message to us right after the show, we'll be able to share it over that way. That might be the better way. Plus, we're right out of time for this segment as it is.
Yeah, no problem. I'll share with you, Andrew. I hope you use it. The only reason is I have a YouTube channel. It's the same thing as my slogan, but there's no politics there. It's only music. That's all. And in fact, the name of it is Chill Music. So my name plus music, okay? And I really want to bring people together. We need to find a way to stop the national divorce that's in front of us. And this way we can stop the potential civil war that's in front of us, because we're all brothers. I know I might disagree with Eric. He might be foolish at times, but I know I don't want to go over there and punch him in the face because he's irritating. I know that leads to nowhere. That only justifies his point. And I want him to understand that I love him. I don't view him as the enemy. I want you and I to succeed in this country, brother. So let's find a way to come together. I'll send you that link. The link again is only music. There's nothing political. Oh, and Magic decks for Magic the Gathering. So if you like Magic the Gathering, I put a couple of lists in there for unique decks that you can use if you're into that.
Fair enough here. Well, appreciate the point in the call. We'll take a look at that one as well. You have a good one there.
Hey, thanks, Andrew. And Marco for mayor, guys. Have a good one. Love you all.
All right, and with that, we got to take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, we'll talk a little bit more about what we got coming up for you on the show, so stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Traffic stop and go on the I-10 westbound from Mesa up to Artcraft with 10-minute delays. I-10 eastbound from Vincent to Artcraft is a 12-minute delay. An accident reported Lee Trevino southbound at Montwood Drive, and eastbound Montana is slow from McRae out to Zaragoza. 10-minute delays there. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Wendy's Late Night, open until midnight or later. Wendy's is open until midnight or later, which means all your favorite menu items are up later too. The Baconator still tastes just as juicy and bacony at night. So listen to that craving and turn in for the night at a Wendy's drive-thru. Hours may vary at participating U.S. Wendy's.
Bachelor Happy Hour, the one and only official Bachelor Nation podcast, is back. Go behind the scenes with your hosts, Bachelor in Paradise Season 7 newlyweds Joe Amabile and Serena Pitt, for real stories about what happens in Bachelor Mansion.
Here on Bachelor Happy Hour, we'll be putting all the guys in the hot seat. We'll have exclusive interviews. We'll be the first to talk to the men. We're going to bring the drama into the house and leave probably brokenhearted.
Listen to Bachelor Happy Hour on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hi, I'm Burt Ward, Robin from TV's Batman, inviting you to feed your dog natural, non-GMO, Gentle Giants dog and puppy food. Dogs eating Gentle Giants and following our special feeding and care program are living as long as 27 healthy, active years with a wonderful quality of life. Holy wow, 27 years! Think of all the extra years you could enjoy with your dog at Target, H-E-B, and stores near you. Try Gentle Giants cat and kitten food, too.
And paid for by Linear Marketing Group. Are you drowning in debt? Are you struggling to make minimum payments? Did you know that on average, a household with at least one credit card struggles with over $17,000 in credit card debt? If this sounds like you, know that it's not your fault. Credit card debt happens to good people. Credit card companies lure you in with low introductory rates and low minimum payments. Before you know it, you're in over your head. We've helped thousands of good people just like you become debt-free with our Debt Reset program that will dramatically reduce your debt down to a fraction of what you owe. Our Debt Reset program is customized to get you debt-free in as little as 24 to 48 months with one low monthly payment. If you owe over $10,000 in credit card debt or even personal loans, call 800-480-7003 now. There are no upfront fees or out-of-pocket expenses. You don't pay a dime until we succeed. Call now to see how the Debt Reset program can work for you. 800-480-7003. That's 800-480-7003. Again, 800-480-7003.
My
Mom and Dad are the best. Ever since they called the Early Childhood Program, I'm doing so much better, and Mom and Dad don't worry or stress as much as they used to. They seem a bazillion times happier, and all services are free.
Parenting isn't easy, so we signed up for the free early childhood program at the El Paso Center for Children. They taught us how to deal with COVID-19 stress and be better parents. Lots of other free services are available. Call 915-500-4105. That's 500-4105.
If you take care of your feet will take care of you. See how we can help at the Good Feet store.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for having joined us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I've been your host, Andrew J. Polk, and of course, Talk El Paso brought to you in part by Mazer Security Alarms. Find out your option for home or business security with no down payment options, 915-590-0033. So a whole lot more coming up, more conversation. But we're going to actually be visiting tomorrow on the program with the author of that recent El Paso Inc. article that we talked about, even just from the DA implications, but also how the review of other similar cases to the August 3rd one, who, as I say, in case any in question at all, the person involved there is never going to breathe a free breath of air again, and I would call that a good thing. But why that may not be totally consistent with the implementation of that and the decisions on it from the federal level. But we're out of time here for the show. I want to thank everyone that did tune in, call in, comment, participate in the show. If you actually want to talk about the things going on and affecting us here in El Paso, if you're just looking to, not do that. That's all we do through at least Monday through Thursday. Friday is always coming. Leave it there for today. See you all tomorrow. Stay safe out there. Look twice for motorcycles when out on the road, and have a great evening, y'all. We'll see you next time.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Heads up for an accident reported eastbound Pebble Hills at Zaragoza in the East Valley. I-10 westbound slow from Mesa to Arcraft. It's a 17-minute delay. A little bit better on the I-10 eastbound side. Still 10-minute delays from Vinton to Arcraft. Slow traffic eastbound Montana, McRae out to Desert Meadows. That's a 15-minute delay. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Portions of the following program were pre-recorded.
Our iHeartRadio Music Festival is coming back to T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas this September.
Superstar artists from every genre.
Streaming live only on Hulu.
Buy tickets now at AXS.com.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same, but is 95% cheaper? And you can get it online? Just go to 4hims.com/radio. Through Hims, you'll get a free medical consultation, discreet shipping if prescribed, a 100% online process, and trusted generic alternatives to the name brands at up to 95% off. That's right. Get generic for Viagra, the same active ingredient as brand name Viagra.